The Hamas militant group says it has accepted an Egyptian-Qatari ceasefire proposal to halt the 7-month war with Israel. Both Israel and Washington say they are reviewing that plan. Earlier, an Israeli official said the proposal was watered down and unacceptable to Israel. Despite that, Hamas's announcement prompted immediate celebrations in southern Gaza. Just hours earlier, Israel had ordered tens of thousands of displaced Palestinians sheltering in the southern city of Rafah to leave and head to a refugee camp ahead of an expected Israeli ground incursion. In the last hour, the Israeli military said it had begun what it described as targeted strikes against Hamas in the eastern part of Rafah. Now, DW correspondent Aya Ibrahim joins me from Jerusalem. Aya, we are getting reports of heavy bombardment in Rafah. What do you know?
Well, the Prime Minister's office a short while ago announced that the War Cabinet, has unanimously voted to continue Israel's operation in Rafah, and what the Israeli military now claims is that it is targeting Hamas operatives in Rafah, and that most southern part of the Gaza Strip. However, Rafah is hugely densely populated at the moment. Over 1 million Palestinians had fled there throughout the course of this war, because the southern part of Gaza is, of course, where Israel had urged civilians for a very long time throughout the war, virtually since the beginning, to evacuate to, as it started its operation in the north. So that's 1 million people in addition to people that were already living in Rafah. So as has been the case in this war, even though the military will claim that they're targeting militants, civilians will inevitably be caught in the crossfire. And this, of course, comes after there was actually a sense of relief and joy tonight in Rafah and elsewhere throughout the Gaza Strip at news that a ceasefire proposal had been accepted by Hamas leadership. The Israeli Prime Minister has said that even though the proposal is not, I'm paraphrasing his statement now, is not up to what Israel was hoping for, that he would still send a delegation to Cairo to exhaust all options for negotiations. And we've also heard some families of some of the hostages that are still believed to be held by Hamas in Gaza give a statement tonight saying that everyone who said that they've been committed to returning the hostages should now really get together and try to make this work, as they are, of course, also desperate to get their loved ones back.
Now, talk us through what we do know about the truce proposal that Hamas says it has accepted.
So it would appear that it is a multi-phased proposal that would have an initial phase of returning at least some of the hostages, Israeli hostages believed to be held in Gaza, in exchange for Palestinian prisoners currently in Israeli jails, that there would be an initial period of about 45 days of a truce, a humanitarian truce, to allow for that exchange, but that afterwards that truce ceasefire would be extended and more Israeli hostages would be exchanged, as well as bodies of the deceased that are still being held by Hamas in Gaza would be returned to Israel, followed then by a phase of rebuilding and reconstruction. But again, whatever the exact details, it would appear that that is not something that the Israeli Prime Minister is willing to accept at this point. However, as I just mentioned, there will be an Israeli delegation going to Cairo, so this could also change. The United States has said that they are now studying the results of the Hamas response, and that they are consulting with their allies in the region. So there appears to be movement there, and a real commitment, at least from the side of the United States, to try and reach some kind of agreement.
Aya Ibrahim, they're reporting from Jerusalem. And for more on the U.S. side of things, DW correspondent Benjamin Alvarez-Gruber joins me now from Washington, D.C. Benjamin, We've just had the reactions from the US. What can you tell us?
That's right. Washington is still reviewing this response that it got from Hamas to a ceasefire proposal. What the spokesperson of the State Department said is that US, as we just heard from our colleague Aya Ibrahim, is discussing with its partners in the region. And he also added that CIA Director Bill Burns is in the region working on this. But the State Department declined to take a position towards this response that it got from Hamas. But it said that Washington believes that a hostage deal is in the best interest of both the Israeli and also the Palestinian people. State Department spokesperson stressed that a military operation in Rafah right now would dramatically increase the suffering of the Palestinian people and would lead to an increase in loss of a civilian life. And with the reports that we're getting now, it remains to be seen how the US will react. What we got was a statement also by the Pentagon saying that Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin had a talk with his Israeli counterpart, saying that Israel needs a credible plan to evacuate civilians and maintain humanitarian aid, and that Washington has not seen details on that yet.
Now, President Biden also spoke on the phone with Benjamin Netanyahu today. What do we know about that conversation?
That's right. It was a half-an-hour call, so 30 minutes. The White House called it constructive, and it also said that President Biden urged Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu against launching an offensive in the southern Gaza city of Rafah. The National Security Council spokesperson John Kirby said that President Biden reiterated a clear stance on Rafah, but offered no details on what a clear stance would actually look like, or if there would be any consequences if Israel goes ahead with a broader attack that might be indeed imminent, looking at the pictures that we're getting from Rafah. It remains to be seen how Washington will react, if it would react with actions and not just with concerned statements and words. And during a meeting that President Biden held here in Washington with Jordan's King Abdullah, he also said that an Israeli attack, that's what King Abdullah said, threatens to lead to new, and I quote, a new massacre. So pressure is increasing on the White House, and Senator Bernie Sanders, one of President Biden's biggest critics on its support for Israel, tweeted out today saying that President Biden must back his words with action, asking him to end all offensive military aid to Israel.
Washington correspondent Benjamin Alvarez-Gruber there reporting. Thank you.